In this video, we're going to get you started learning the basics of Mathematica. So we're going to learn how to open up Mathematica, how to enter functions into Mathematica, and how to plot those functions, much like you would on a graphing calculator. We're later going to go about talking about how you could acquire Mathematica for your personal computer should you want to through Carthage's website. However, you should know that Mathematica is installed on all of the Math Lab computers. Those are the computers in DSC 257. You're always welcome to use those computers as well to work with Mathematica. Now the first thing I'm going to do is go to my Start menu. I don't have a shortcut for Mathematica on my desktop. The lab computers will have that shortcut. But I'm going to go to my Start menu and I'm going to select this icon that says Wolfram Mathematica. The version I'm using is 10.3. The computers in the lab may have been updated to be a more recent version of Mathematica. You shouldn't notice a difference between the two versions for the types of things we're going to do. So it pops up, Wolfram Mathematica 10. And what I'm going to do is create a new Mathematica document, much like you would in any other type of software. And I'm going to maximize it just so that you can see my full screen, and I'm going to make the print bigger, just so it's a little bit easier to see. Neither of those things are necessary. But here I am in Mathematica, and I have this horizontal bar showing that it's ready. I'm going to do something really silly first that I might not necessarily do on a calculator, just to help sort of wake Mathematica up. Mathematica sometimes initially can be very slow when you open it, so I ask it to do a really easy computation. Like I say, Mathematica, what's 1 plus 1? Now notice that if I hit my Enter key on my computer, nothing happens. Mathematica is going to have two different kinds of Enter. If you just hit Enter, it's going to create vertical space for you, but it's not going to register what you've input. If you want Mathematica to actually do a computation, you have to say, no Mathematica, I don't want vertical spacing, I want you to do a computation, which means you're going to hold Shift while you put Enter. And then Mathematica will give you this line that says output. So it says input number 1, it says output number 1. So its response to what is 1 plus 1 is 2. Now you can see Mathematica was very quick that time, but it's not always so quick, which is the reason for doing some sort of silly computation like this, just to wake Mathematica up so it will be quick the next time. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is just how to graph a simple function. So let's say I was looking at a function, they don't come much easier than a line. So let's say I was looking at an equation like x plus 5, and I wanted to graph that. The command that Mathematica uses for graphing is plot, P-L-O-T. And you can see that when you're typing in Mathematica, if you're entering nonsense words, it'll type in blue. But the minute that you actually hit upon a Mathematica command, like a word plot, it changes from that light blue writing to black. And you can also see that when you're entering things in, Mathematica tries to guess the command that you might want and offer you some options. So if you couldn't remember precisely what it was, that command that you wanted, but you knew it's the way that it started, you could start typing it in and Mathematica would autocomplete for you, which is a nice feature of Mathematica. But plot is what I'm looking for if I just want to graph something. You'll notice a couple of things. The first thing is that Mathematica likes capital letters. So the command plot starts with a capital P. All commands in Mathematica will start with a capital letter. And you could see that if for whatever reason I was looking for this command to Mathematica like plot range, plot is one word and range is one word, and whenever it reaches a new word, it wants to capitalize again. Capital P to start plot and a capital R for range. That's called camel case. Mathematica really likes camel case writing. It likes each of its words to start with a capital letter since it doesn't process spaces correctly. So plot is the command that I'm looking for. The second point to note is that we're used to passing arguments to things, perhaps into a calculator, with these rounded brackets like that. Mathematica reserves rounded brackets for grouping things. When you want to enter into a command in Mathematica, it wants to distinguish between parentheses that you're going to use to group things from calls to a function. And so it's going to use square brackets instead of round brackets. Notice again they've changed from red to black. When I started typing in those square brackets, they were red. When I complete them, now they're black. So the commands start with capital letters, and you enter commands into functions with square brackets. That's entirely consistent across all of Mathematica's commands. Now, if we wanted to plot the function x plus 5, I need to give two pieces of information to the plot function, just like I would in a calculator. The first thing I need to do is tell it what function I want it to graph, which we said was x plus 5. Now, the next thing that I need to give Mathematica is a window. I want to see the function x plus 5, Mathematica, but I need to tell it it's got x in blue, see? Mathematica doesn't know what x is. It doesn't know automatically that x is the variable I'm using. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to enter in what my variable is, and I need to give Mathematica a viewing window. Where do I want to see this function? Over what range? Much like you would on a graphing calculator, there's that window option. Where do you want to be looking? That's what we have to enter in as the second part of the command to the plot function. So the first command is the function we want to see, x plus 5. And the second command is going to be a list. So it's going to use these little squiggly brackets or braces. And inside the braces, we're going to put three things, all separated by commas. The first thing we're going to put is what our variable is. Our variable is x. We're going to follow that by a comma. Notice again how it's changed the color. Now Mathematica, x was in blue before. It was something that Mathematica didn't know. As soon as I say x, that's my variable, it changes that color from blue to green. Oh, now I understand what x is. So x is my variable, and I want to view this function x plus 5 as x ranges from, let's say, -5 to 5. I group all of that information, what my variable is, what my starting value for where I want to look at this function is for my x value, and my stopping value for when I want to stop looking at this function x plus 5. I put all of those things in braces, and the two pieces of information that I have to send to the plot function, namely the function x plus 5, and then this information about what my variable is and when I want to start seeing it, when I want to stop seeing it, all of that information gets put together inside of braces, and that's the second argument into the plot function. And remember, if I want to see the picture, instead of just hitting enter, all that will do is move my cursor down a space. Mathematica won't register it. I have to hit shift enter, and then Mathematica will draw me a nice picture. Now you could go back and you could play around with this, maybe look at x going from 0 to 5 now, and it'll change the scale. It automatically adjusts. It has the x values right, 0 to 5, but it changes the scale of the output value to try to give me the best view of that function as it can come up with. Let's change back, just for fun. Now here's the next thing to know about Mathematica. Whenever you're getting used to, and this isn't even just about Mathematica, this is about any piece of computer software. Whenever you're getting to know something, the best thing you can do is to learn how to ask for help. If something is confusing and you don't understand it, how do you ask for help? And Mathematica really and truly tries to help you. So it has a help window up here that you could use to try to go through all of these different options. Or if there's a command, like let's say you remember that you want the plot function and you remember that it starts with a capital P, but you can't remember this formatting. The function comes first, and where do the commas go, and what do I need, braces or parentheses or brackets? That's all very confusing. The video went fast. I don't remember. Well, one thing you can do is go back through this video, but the other thing you can do is ask Mathematica. So you can put a question mark in, and then the name of your function. So question mark plot. And if I now hit enter, question mark plot, shift enter of course, so Mathematica registers it, it tries to tell me what I might want to know about that function. So here it says plot, and then it puts the square brackets on the outside, and it says f, comma, x, x min, x max, and it says that generates a plot of f as a function of what variable? Well, of x, from x min to x max. So it tries to tell you in that sort of formal text speech exactly what format you should be entering things in. And if you follow this in terms of braces and brackets and commas, you'll have everything correct. But maybe you're doing this and you don't want to pull up the video to look at this specific example. If you want to see more, so it gives you First of all, it tells you what it thinks is the most common format first. If there are multiple formats for the same function, it will list those next, which is what's going on with the plot function. We'll explore that more in a minute. But it'll also try to give you some further examples. So if I click on these arrows right here, it'll open up a whole new window. It gives me that same information it gave me before, the different ways that you could call the plot function. And then it has this details and options where you can try and go and look at that. That's a little bit more technical. And then it has examples. Plot sine of x, x goes from 0 to 6 pi. Plotting, and it gives you examples for all of those different options that it's listing up here. So it will typically start with the most basic example it can come up with and then get harder as you go along. So here it's giving you ideas of how you might plot several functions over the same interval. Here it's giving you an idea of how you might shade underneath a curve or between some curves, all types of things. More things you could do with the plot function. So that's asking for help in Mathematica. Let's explore two more things in this video. First, let's explore this second option for the plot function. On your graphing calculator, one of your favorite things to do is open it up and maybe plot a couple different functions at the same time. Right? Mathematica can do that too, and that's what they're indicating here with the second use of the plot function. They're saying, hey, if you want to plot more than one function at a time, all you have to do is, instead of going back and entering just one function here, where we have the x plus 5, right after the square bracket, is you have to tell me that you want to plot more than one thing. So let's use our braces, and let's put all the different functions that we want to plot in between braces, and that'll be the only change to the way we use this plot function. So for example, if I wanted to plot two functions, not just x plus 5, but also 2x plus 10, or negative 2x plus 10, if I wanted to plot both of those functions on that interval from x going from negative 5 to 5, the effect of what I've just done is I said, okay, plot me the same function I had before, but let's add a second function. Let's also take a look at the function negative 2x plus 10, and let's look on that same interval. X is my variable for both functions, that's important. X is going from negative 5 to 5. Hitting Shift Enter, it plots both of those functions for me. Again, it keeps me from negative 5 to 5 here on the x-axis, but it came up with what was an accurate window for the y-axis in order to best see both of those functions. And you can see that the first function is blue and the second function is orange. Notice that there are a lot of ways that you can play with Mathematica, and it tries to help you again. So here it's got some options. After I've hit Enter, I could hit More, and it would expand some things. So for example, maybe I want to see some labels. Maybe I'd like it to label those functions for me, or maybe provide a legend. So let's see, legends, what happens when I hit legend formulas? I went down there and I just toyed around, and now it tells me, oh, the blue one is the function x plus 5, the orange one is negative 2x plus 10. So provide some labels, because memorizing the colors that Mathematica uses in what order should not be your main purpose. So Mathematica will do that for you with just a couple touches of the button. The second thing that I want to do is I want to show you how to enter things into Mathematica when maybe your functions aren't quite so nice as x plus 5 and negative 2x plus 10. So let's say that I'm interested in a kind of nasty function. I'll say it out loud and it'll even be ambiguous, which will be all the more reason for us to want to use Mathematica to group things nicely. Let's take a look at the function quantity t squared minus 9t divided by the square root of quantity 16t to the 4th plus 2. Okay. Kind of crazy sounding function. It's not even clear what I mean, right? So let me enter it into Mathematica. What do I want to plot? I want to plot a nasty function. That's the whole reason I'm plotting it. I need the help of the computer. And it's a fraction, and there's some square roots involved. And there are a couple ways to go about it. So one thing that you could do is you could be very careful, like you would with a calculator, and make sure that you have parentheses and everything. Or maybe you would feel a little bit more comfortable if you could enter in, just as you see it in your mathematics textbook, the same expression into Mathematica. And I think that's a little bit easier for people. So the way that I could do this without getting really into the commands of Mathematica and grouping is to use something called a palette. And the one that we want is the Basic Math Assistant. That'll have a lot of things for us. So I click on it and it comes up. And what it is it shows us a whole bunch of buttons for the way that we might want things to look. And then it will sort of put in the commands for us into Mathematica, which is very helpful. So the first thing I did is I had a fraction. So what I want to do is a fraction, something divided by something else. So I look around until I see square divided by square, something divided by something else. Yeah, that's what I want. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to enter in t squared minus 9t. That's my numerator. You can see that Mathematica is shading in the top box. It's ready for me to enter there. Or I could click on this box, and when I start typing, that's where my typing will occur. So I was looking for t squared minus 9t. And that's great. But even if I don't want that t squared, I could use this math palette to help me again. So t squared minus 9t, most of us are okay with that caret notation, t squared. But if we weren't, we could go back to the very beginning and say the very first thing I want to do is enter something along with an exponent of that thing, which sort of looks like this button right here. Again, it shades for me, so t is what I want here, and then I can click on this thing up top and say 2 is what I want there. And then I can click next to the t squared, say minus 9t. And now it really and truly looks like what I might see in my textbook. Now we're ready to move on to the denominator, so I'll go to the denominator of the function and I'll click on it. And the next thing I had was a square root. Now I could learn the Mathematica command for a square root, it's not too hard, or I could come over to my palette and say, here's a square root symbol, that's what I want to take the square root of something. And what do I want to take the square root of? It's 16t to the 4th, so 16, and then I'm going to have a t to a power. I'll use this so it looks just like it would in my math book. T is there, and up top is a 4th power, and then I'm going to add 2 to that. That's this thing that I want to plot, that function. The nice thing about the math palette, like I said, is you can try to make it look right here in Mathematica exactly like it might look on your assignment or in your textbook. Now I need to tell Mathematica, where do I want to see this function? Well, and what is my variable? So my variable is t now instead of x. And I want to see this function. All of the blues went to this green color. Well, now it knows it's a variable. So I want to see this function as t goes from, let's say, I don't know, 0 to 9. I'll hit Shift Enter, and Mathematica will plot the function for me. And that's it. That's all we're going to cover in this video right here. But just to check your understanding, what I would say is go through this video, open up Mathematica on your own computer, and see if you can plot some different functions. So let's try and plot 2 functions at the same time. Let's try and plot the function 1 over 1 plus x squared, and maybe you want to take that function and make it look nice using your math palette. And let's also plot a line at the same time. So at the same time, plot that function, but you should also plot the function negative 0.06x plus 0.28. And let's say graph these on the window from 0 to 5. And that's your little check your understanding to see if you've gotten out of this video what we hope you would. But the very last thing that I want to show you is how to go on Carthage's website to acquire Mathematica for your own computer, or maybe gain access to Mathematica online, so that you don't have to download it, but you can use all the nice features that we're learning about in Mathematica from your own dorm room if you don't want to go to the math lab. So the very first thing you need to do is open up a browser. Let's go to Carthage's website. And we want to go to the library's webpage, which is located under Academics. Click on Library. That brings us to the Hedberg Library webpage. let's click on the technology link. And after we've clicked on the technology link, let's go to software and resources. And let's click on for students, since that's what you are. And if you scroll down, this is actually a great little website that tells you about all types of different technology that's available to you as a Carthage student. The one we're interested in this video is Mathematica. I'll bring you right down to where Mathematica is on this website. It says, tells you what Mathematica is, and it says click on this link for installation instructions. So that's what we want to do. Once you're here on the page for Mathematica, what you're going to want to do is go down until you find in red the situation that suits you best. So for most of you watching this video, that should be installing Mathematica on a Carthage student personal computer. Now the first thing that you're going to have to do is create an account, if you're not already registered with Wolfram, by going to user.wolfram.com and creating an account. The thing that you want to make certain of is that you are using your @carthage.edu email and that you've entered it correctly. Mathematica is a very fancy software. It normally costs a lot of money. The only reason that you're getting it free is that you're a Carthage student, and so you need to indicate that you're a Carthage student by using your Carthage email address. So that's why this step is so important. After that, it's going to be a little bit of a back and forth between you and Wolfram, company that makes Mathematica. You're going to have to check your email to validate that you are in fact a human being. You're going to have to fill out a form requesting an activation key, and you'll have to keep coming back to this website that has instructions and following further instructions that you'll receive from Wolfram in order to install Mathematica on your personal computer. The other nice thing that you can see on this website is that there's some more information here on how to use Mathematica, some videos on using Mathematica, and a whole bunch of other things. So keep that in mind. I will keep creating videos. You're welcome to come back to them at any time, and I'm sure that there are plenty of other people out there on YouTube who have made wonderful videos about using Mathematica, and those are some great resources for you.